So it looks like transparency has become a growing trend in government. Well, at least the facade of transparency. See, last week, the Central Intelligence Agency held its first public press conference at Georgetown University under the theme, The Ethos of Profession and Intelligence. But that's not all. The shadowy, uber-secretive organization also joined Twitter. That's right, and it announced its presence on the social media site with an attempt at humor, tweeting, quote, "We can neither confirm nor deny that this is our first tweet." Cute. But despite the CIA's latest attempt to appear open and transparent, it can't run away from its truly horrifying track record, which has, as journalist John Pilger puts it, waged a global war on democracy. And as much as this shady organization wants to appear likable and modern, no amount of whitewashing can hide its despicable history. Take, for example, some of the more well-known CIA operations I've covered on this show. First, there's Operation Mockingbird, launched in the 1950s, which aimed to spread U.S. propaganda during the Cold War by placing well-established journalists directly on the CIA payroll. Then there's the CIA's little experimentation with psychedelics around the same time, called Operation MK Ultra, where agents dosed each other and unsuspecting Americans with LSD. And let's not forget Operation Paperclip, another post-World War II program during which the CIA recruited former Nazi scientists and provided them safe harbor in America. Lovely. And while all of these domestic programs have since been halted, the darker CIA operations conducted on foreign soil over the decades have had long, debilitating impacts. Consider some of the most well-known CIA-backed coups that have disrupted the democratic evolution of countries in nearly every corner of the earth. Like in 1953, when the CIA, along with the MI6, ousted Iran's first democratically elected leader, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, because Mossadegh was just too keen on notions like nationalizing Iran's resources, the things that the global capitalist establishment just cannot condone. Or you may remember in the case of Chile, where in 1970, democratically elected Marxist leader Salvador Allende was elected. His subsequent push to nationalize industries within the country led the CIA to orchestrate a coup. Allende broadcast a speech from the palace promising never to resign and give up on the Chilean people. However, he was dead by the end of the day, and it's still not clear whether or not he took his own life or was outright assassinated by the CIA. Of course, Allende was replaced by an even worse dictator, Augusto Pinochet, who oversaw the deaths of at least 10,000 Chileans. Then there's the coup just miles from America's coastline in Haiti, where the CIA helped ousted democratically elected Jean-Bertrand Aristide not once but twice in 1991 and again in 2004. But guys, these fairly well-known CIA coups and operations are anything but seldom. In fact, there are dozens of lesser-known, mind-blowing plots extensively documented by historian William Bloom in his book Killing Hope, CIA Interventions Since World War II. Starting in Latin America, where the CIA launched Operation Condor in 1975 with the goal of propping up right-wing military dictatorships across the region, including in Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Bolivia, Brazil, Paraguay. Well, the list goes on. The U.S. joined forces with these countries to assassinate and disappear left-wing dissidents, politicians, and journalists, including a car bombing that took place right here in the nation's capital. And yes, Operation Condor encompassed all the usual suspects in psychopathy, including then Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. All in all, at least 60,000 deaths can officially be attributed to the operation. Moving on to Africa, specifically the once actually Democratic Republic of Congo. In 1960, the Congo elected its first democratically elected Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba. Unfortunately for the West, Lumumba was a staunch nationalist who advocated for national liberation both politically and economically. Yet when Lumumba was faced with the U.S. and Belgian-backed secession of a resource-rich province, he turned to the Soviet Union for aid in holding on to the territory. So, of course, this move put him on a CIA hit list. According to Global Research, declassified American documents establish Washington's role in attempting to kill Lumumba by smuggling poisoned toothpaste into his bathroom. Ultimately, Lumumba was caught by opposition forces and executed by firing squad. Fast forward to today, where Congo remains a hotbed of instability, its bloody civil war resulting in the ongoing genocide of nearly 6 million people. But in other cases, sometimes all it takes to win yourself a covert invasion is being opposed to U.S. militarism, which is exactly what happened on the tiny island nation of Seychelles, with a population of just 62,000 people. See, in 1976, socialist France Albert Rene came to power and voiced opposition to the U.S. airbase located in his country. And immediately, the CIA and South African government began plotting how to get rid of what had just become another thorn in their side. So in 1981, after a failed plot to oust Rene 2 years prior, 40 men disguised as a rugby team flew into the country in an attempt to overthrow the leader. But once their weapons were found upon arrival, a gun battle ensued at the airport. And get this, the men had to actually hijack an Air India flight in order to get back to South Africa. Papers all across South Africa broke details alleging the CIA had bankrolled the entire invading force, although the U.S., of course, maintains that the botched operation was all an internal conflict. Though Rene's rule was by no means democratic, his decades-long rule resulted in the country becoming the most developed nation in Africa, according to the Human Development Index. But if you think you've heard it all when it comes to the low lengths the CIA will stoop to ensure U.S. hegemony, then hold onto your seat, because a failed ouster plot in Indonesia takes the cake. Sukarno, the country's first president, probably the most absurd character assassination plot of all time, happened to him. You see, Sukarno threatened the U.S. goals for Southeast Asia in the 1940s by aligning with its Cold War enemies. But instead of ordering a simple assassination, the CIA got a little more creative. Believe it or not, the agency crafted a plot to produce a porno film starring actors who resembled Sukarno and his Russian girlfriend, hoping that the circulation would hurt his popularity in the Muslim country. According to Bloom's book, production went as far as developing a mask designed to resemble the president. Ultimately, the scheme only produced photographs, and Sukarno's constituents didn't fall for the fraud. He was ousted by a military coup regardless the following year. But U.S. involvement in Indonesia didn't end with the failed sex tape. According to journalist Kathy Kadin, who interviewed former officials from the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, the State Department and CIA, quote, systematically compiled comprehensive lists of communist operatives from top echelons down to village cadres, and that as many as 5,000 names were furnished to the Indonesian army. That's the same Indonesian army that carried out the murder of up to 1 million people during a year-long massacre. Look, I can go on all day about what the CIA has done to subvert the world and evolution of humanity, but I only have a 30-minute show. So please keep all of this in mind the next time the CIA attempts to play nice and interact with the public it has nothing but contempt for. Because it's hard to fit its laundry list of war crimes, subversion, and extrajudicial killings into a 140-character tweet.